Hello, this is Brett, and I'm here with Sandy for another episode of the Lightning Chat. How are you doing?
Very good, Brett. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty okay, thank you. Yeah,
Good to see you.
yeah, likewise. So, yeah, we are going to be talking Lightning forms. So, yeah, we've got, I think, a pretty exciting release coming out in
Yep.
April. Yeah, there's going to be lots of new features around styling and things like that. But I think we first of all need to explain what Lightning Forms is.
Right.
There's sometimes a bit of confusion with some of the form products and naming, especially like
hmm
Microsoft
Yeah,
Forms.
there's forms, right? Yes.
So I think it'd be good to sort of position Lightning Forms and what
Mm,
that provides, and then yeah, I think how does it compare with some of the other solutions
mm.
on the market as well. So
Yep.
where should we start? What is Lightning Forms?
Yeah, like why would I want to, yeah, what does it do actually? Is it a
So,
form you can fill out?
so you're going to ask me that? Or am I going
I'll ask myself then.
to? What does
Uh,
it do, Sandy? What's Lightning Forms?
Right. So it's a SharePoint list form customization tool. So if you're using SharePoint lists or libraries in SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-prem, you might want to change the layout of how people will see the fields when they go to enter new items or display existing items or edit items. So if you don't have a customized form, you get kind of the long list of every single field that exists in your list. Say you're trying to enter a new item and maybe you have 30 fields or something, then the people who are trying to enter a new item are just going to see that big long list of fields in SharePoint. And they have to scroll around, and maybe you don't actually need them to fill out or want them to fill out all of those fields when they're filling a new form, or you want to have things laid out a little differently. So that's where a forms customization tool comes in general, just to make things easier on people trying to enter and view the data, make it more intuitive for them, have a better
Yeah,
user interface.
yeah, definitely. So, I like to think of, some of the business forms that people are familiar with filling out, and it could be, 1042 forms, or it could be,
I don't know what that is.
it's a tax form, or, yeah, you know, a requisition form of some
Mm,
sort, or expenses
right.
application, or something along those lines. And yeah, when you fill out those, you don't just get a long list of fields to complete. Yeah, it's got sections in it. It's got if you think about those pieces of paper, um, it's organized into different sections for maybe your address details,
Mm,
who you are as a person. So it'll have your email address and your date of birth and things like that. And then there'll be another section that might be asking a different category of questions. And on there, there'll be even little paragraphs that explain how to fill out that section, or sometimes lengthy paragraphs on how to fill out that section, and so on. And so that's really what you can use a SharePoint list as the basis for, or not just a single list, but multiple lists as well. So one of the demonstrations that I tend to do, because everybody can kind of get their head around it, is an expenses application where you may create an expense report at the end of a month or at the end of a business trip or something, and you're going to have lots of expense items that you're going to be submitting. So it could be, you got the actual report date and who your manager is and who you are, and all that sort of information is going to be the main part of the form. But then nested inside of that is going to be all the different items you might be claiming for, meals with customers, or drinks with customers, or
mm.
flights and train tickets.
Can't wait
Yeah,
till we
those
do
are the
that again.
bits. So you'd fill all of that out, and yeah, it could be laid out in a way that makes sense, and you've got those different sections on those forms, and the buttons would be there to actually perform something as well. So it might be that you need to submit that to your line manager or something along those lines.
Mm.
And so,
Yeah,
so yeah,
I was going to say another thing that with paper forms is sometimes you'll have a section where, if you checked this choice up above, then fill out this part. And if not, then these fields aren't even relevant to you.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't do in SharePoint out of the box.
Yeah, this section is to be filled out by the customer. This section is to be filled out by yeah, Lightning Tools or whoever. Absolutely right. So yeah, so what you can do with Lightning Forms is you can take some SharePoint lists, and this is not just for SharePoint Online either. So if you're using SharePoint 2016 on premises or SharePoint 2019 on premises, you can make use of Lightning Forms, and whether you're using Classic or Modern as well. So of course that applies to 2019, but also applies to SharePoint Online too. So there is a Classic version of Lightning Forms, which has been out for quite a few years now. And that allows you to go through and add this business logic and change the layouts and so on of the Classic forms. But we also have the modern one as well, that still allows you to create the sort of side panel layout that you get with the forms, but you can make this wider if you want to. You can add different tab controls, have multiple columns. You can nest the other forms on there as well to create that sort of one-to-many type relationship that we just mentioned, and also add logic through action buttons and behaviors and so on the field. So yeah, that's the type of thing that you can do very easily, and it remains responsive. It's fully responsive, like the side panel was originally inside the modern form. So yeah, you can collapse it right down, and even the tabs will become sections and so on. Mobile phones it's pretty nice to see. So
Yeah, we've gotten great feedback on that particular aspect of it, and the fact that it blends in so perfectly with SharePoint Modern Lists, and it looks like it belongs there.
yeah, absolutely does. Yeah. And of course, being an SPFX solution, it picks up a lot of the styling as well that you've got on that page. So if you have got blue accents on your page from the theme that's applied, then you'll see the accents picked up in the form just like they would be on the standard form. So yeah, it's pretty nice from that regard. It doesn't look like a customized form. So yeah, pretty good. So yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do with it. So talking about some of those features that you would have on a paper-based form, you can go through and first of all launch the Contextual Designer, and this is for me one of the main reasons for choosing Lightning Forms. Is it is contextual. You're not going out of that list. You're still inside your browser, so you've got to hand all the environment variables and things like that to work with. And for want of an old term, it's kind of like a WYSIWYG editor. So you can move things around, and however it was when you hit save, that's what it's going to look like when you're actually using that form, which is quite pleasant. It's not like you're designing something in a separate application, publishing it, and then it looks different to what you expected. It's there inside the site whilst you design it. So the sort of things that you can do, first of all, if you think about paper-based form, you've got a header on the form, so you can create a rich text area, embed that on your form, and you can put headers and logos or just text on what you're expecting people to do with this form. That can all go into that section at the top. You can create collapsible sections, so if there's a lot of fields that you want to they're not filled out every single time. One example would be where you've got a delivery address and you've got a billing address. So if those two are going to be the same, you might have it that you can expand the billing address section to fill that part out if you wanted to, or make it all invisible unless you tick the checkbox to say I want to add a new billing address. Then that would then collapse or expand as well. So yeah, you can do that type of thing, and yeah, basically drag and drop the fields where you want them to appear.
I especially like the tab layout too, that you can do where you can have multiple tabs across which, I mean, obviously your paper forms don't have that, but people are kind of used to that from websites and so on, to be able to have tabs for this or that, and the tabs themselves may be visible or not, depending on some other condition.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, if you think about the paper-based form, that how many times have you actually accidentally filled out a field and realized that there was a little bit of text that said this is not, this is for intercompany use only or something like that. So yeah, you could actually put all of those fields under a tab and only have that tab show based on your group membership inside of SharePoint. So yeah,
can't do that with a paper form.
You can't, absolutely. So yeah, one of the things I like to do actually in my expense demo is we have an approval tab. So only approvers can go into that approval tab and they can see the total expense claim. And they've got a button in there that they can click on and it will actually approve it and then notify the person filling out the expense claim that their expenses have been approved. And the only person that should see that tab is the approver. So if you have an approvers group or if you create an approvers group inside that SharePoint site, then any members inside that group will be able to go through and see that tab. Otherwise, you can't, and you don't even realize it's there. So yeah, that makes it a big win for digital forms over paper-based forms there. So yeah, you can do that type of thing. There's also, as well as the general layout, you can insert what we call a sublist, and those coming from an InfoPath background, the easiest way to sort of get your head around this is a repeating table. So yeah, the expense items, if you like, if that was a separate list, you can actually embed that on your expense report list form. So yeah, you fill out the main part of your form, and then you can itemize all your expenses and submit all of that. So it just becomes one big form to fill out, as opposed to having to go into two different places or something along those lines.
Yep, and it's very easy to add that. You just
Uh-huh.
select the list.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it generates a lookup column for you, which is how that maintains that relationship between the two items. So. Yeah, and then yeah, the submit button. So you can either change the existing buttons, either the command bar buttons at the top or the buttons that you get on the form. So you can customize the actions for those. There's a whole list of actions that you can do, like send emails, set form field values, open up other lists, and you can even call a flow if you want, using HTTP request from there as well. So yeah, all of your logic can go into buttons, but you can also add logic behind the different fields as well. So there's different behaviors there, such as initial or calculated, and so on, and validation.
We have a lot of people who use especially the initial values, like pre-filling some of the fields based on the current user or based on some other context or based on some other fields. Yeah, that's a great feature.
Yeah. And when you are adding those, there's a function wizard that helps you, and quite often not everybody believes me on this, but it's like I can create pretty complex functions in there just using the mouse. You don't have to know all the functions. So basically, you've got, when you go into the function wizard, so say you wanted to create a calculation in a field, yeah, you can use your mouse. You can click onto the expression builder, and you'll see all of the different fields in a tree view type format. So if you wanted to maybe just add two fields together, just for argument's sake, you double click on one, click the plus operator, and then double click on the other one. You're done, and it's really intuitive. But also there's some other functions in there as well, so you can dive in to some other contextual objects. And this is the thing that I love about Lightning Forms, is because it is contextual, we can get to things like query string variables, or we can get to the the site properties, or the site collection properties, or the page properties, even the list properties.
The user properties is a big one too.
Yeah. So if the user's a manager, or what location is the does the user belong to, all of that stuff that's in your user profile, you can get at just using the mouse. Just double click on it and bring that into your calculation. So yeah, it's really intuitive from that perspective, and being able to create these calculations. But if you do want to get using your keyboard and write some script or something like that, you can do that too. So yeah, there is a function code option in there where you can write some JavaScript and do something a bit more complex if you wanted to do that too.
Yeah, sometimes I find that customers think they need to do that, and then I am able to show them, well, you can do that just through the UI actually, and you don't have to write JavaScript like you think you used to have to do.
Yeah, that's job qualification. So I'll put the JavaScript in there, only I know how to support that. But yeah, it's very, very intuitive to use. So yeah, that's what it's all about, customizing those forms. So every list has the new form and the display form and the edit form, and using Lightning Forms, you can very easily customize the layouts, customize the logic, and so on, and effectively build a business application using Lightning Forms without leaving your browser. It's a great tool.
What if I wanted to have different fields displaying whether if somebody is creating a new item versus when they're looking at an item?
Yeah, so those three forms, first of all, you don't have to create the same layout 3 times. So you can just do it once on, say, the new form, and then export that design out, and then import it into your display form and your edit form, but they remain independent of one another. So if you wanted to do something a little bit differently on the edit form to what's on the new form, then you could do. So that's a great question. So completely independent forms.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people want to hide a field on one or the other, or make it, not only can you hide fields, but you could make them disabled so somebody can see what's in the field but not enter anything, for example.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, even on the display form, if you think of that sort of approval process as well, you know, your line manager, for example, or your approver doesn't necessarily need to see all of the information that you provided. So I just need to see, yeah, I don't need to see the expense items. I just
Mm.
need to see the overall expense amount, and then whether I want to approve it or not. You know, was it in budget? So
Mm.
yeah, you could hide some fields to get rid of that complexity, and just focus them on what they need,
Mm.
which is great.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
all about the user, the experience, really, of helping people get their work done more efficiently.
Yep. Now, I guess once upon a time, people used to use InfoPath for this.
Right.
So yeah, you had
Well,
InfoPath
careers have
forms.
been built around InfoPath.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I remember writing a training class on Lightning Form. Sorry, on Lightning Forms, on InfoPath. So I built a course on InfoPath, which is pretty good. So yeah, you could go and design a form using InfoPath. You could write scripts and things like that if you wanted to, and so on, and publish that to SharePoint. So the
Mhm.
way it would get published is to a SharePoint form library.
Mm.
And basically, the form that you completed on InfoPath would collect some XML, and that XML file would actually be stored inside the form library, but it would expose some of those values as properties inside the library. So you could take, for example, the company name and display that as a field, and so on. So yeah, there was a term for that. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, you're sort of showing those values from the XML, as though they're columns actually inside
Mm.
that library.
Mm.
Which is,
Something about promoting them or
yeah,
something, right?
yeah, I think
Mm.
so. Yeah, yeah. So people used InfoPath, but that's been deprecated, or will be 2024. I think is the date for that one.
Oh, I thought it was sooner than that,
Maybe it
but maybe
is.
they might have pushed it out.
Okay,
So that's
but
actually interesting. That's sort of I hadn't recalled about that, promoting fields to columns, but that's sort of the opposite of what you're doing with a list form customization tool, where you have all the columns and you
yeah,
decide whether or not to put them on your form.
exactly. That's where you start. So if you want to build a new business form in with Lightning Forms, you start off at the list and you think there about all the different fields that you're going to need, and then that's where you just get that long list of fields in the standard form. But then you can customize it with Lightning Forms and arrange them,
Mm. Mm.
and add your logic. So yeah,
Mm. Mhm. Yeah, it's
yeah,
a different
so,
way of thinking about it.
yeah, it certainly is. Uh, but yeah, the other benefit of that as well is being able to yeah, it's all just using standard SharePoint. You're not using anything
Mm.
else,
Mhm.
other than obviously to design the app in the first place. But um, an area of your specialization is Powerapps. So
Mhm.
this MVP and business applications. So Powerapps inside out, and also Flow as well, Power
Mhm.
Automate. So yeah, how does Lightning Forms compare to Powerapps? Because you can also customize the SharePoint list forms with Powerapps, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. So if you're in a modern SharePoint list in SharePoint Online only, then you can select to customize a form in Power Apps. And what that does then is drop you out of SharePoint and into Power Apps, well, in another tab, but still. And then you can modify the form. So it comes through with all the columns, and then you can decide, which ones to display or not, kind of similarly. Um, but people ask me that a lot, like a lot of our customers, or even people that I'm working with in Power Apps, if what they're trying to do is customize a SharePoint list form as opposed to building a separate standalone app, like for your mobile device or something, that's definitely what you would use Power Apps for. But if you're just trying to customize a SharePoint list form, I feel that in a lot of ways, Lightning Forms is easier to use. It's got a um, smaller learning curve, I would say, for business users, for sure, because if you take your average business user and drop them into Powerapps, they're not going to know what to do with it without some Powerapps training. But I would say if your average business user clicks on Lightning Forms customization and it opens up the design canvas in another tab, but still in SharePoint, you can see your fields and you can see that you can drag them around and add other fields. And it's pretty clear, that you can create expressions. And I mean, it takes obviously some additional training too to do more complex things, but I think in general it's got an easier to understand user interface, and some things are just easier, like creating the sublists. That would take some know-how in Powerapps to be able to bring in data from another list. I mean, in Powerapps, that's one of its advantages. You can bring in data from basically anywhere else that you can connect to. But even just trying to create, though, a related table with list items from another list, and then be able to update those at the same time as you're updating your primary list, that really takes a good bit of know-how to do that in Powerapps. You can do things like move things to exactly where you want them in Powerapps, that you get sort of a little less flexibility in Lightning Forms, whereby there are sections. You can have 1 column, 2 column, 3 column sections and move things around in those sections, which is very useful, but you can't necessarily move them to exactly a certain XY coordinate like you can in Powerapps.
How does that work with responsiveness then?
Well, exactly. Then it's not. Yeah. So because because Lightning Forms has those sections and areas, then it is responsive, like you mentioned. Whereas in Powerapps, if you want to be able to use that in on a browser versus on a mobile device, you've got to then you're not really customizing a form anymore. You need to switch to building an app, because then that needs to be either a mobile app or a browser app. Currently, anyway.
Cool.
Yep. So a couple other, some of the things too depend on the people's use cases. Like if they have guest users trying to use their list and being able to enter data, then probably Lightning Forms is the better choice there too, because for Powerapps that would have to be all set up in Azure to be able to allow guest users to even see that form. So yeah, there's some pretty major differences, and a lot of it has to do with learning curve, I think. We've had, I can't tell you the number of customers, Lightning Forms customers, who have tried to use Powerapps and they say we just couldn't get it. And so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything has I think you have to remember that, a lot of people that use these tools are not, it is literally just that. It's a tool to do a job, and they're not interested in building forms. They just want the quickest solution to build a business form.
Right.
And
right.
they
That's right.
don't have the
They're trying
time
do
to
it
go
quick.
and research all of this stuff. So
I mean, we do offer Powerapps coaching.
yes, absolutely, through Enlightening,
Right. And we're
enlightening.com.
certainly happy to do that, but it does take time. So yeah,
Yeah.
if and I do obviously really like Powerapps a lot, but there's definitely space for a third-party tool like Lightning Forms that just does that one thing and does it well.
Yep, certainly. Cool. Well, I think
And
that's
what about the new out-of-the-box formatting though? I mean, SharePoint is adding ways to build customized list forms right in SharePoint, right?
yes, yeah, you can. So I think there's something very basic. You can go in and you can change the order of those fields. So when you open up a list item, you see the capability of rearranging the fields now.
Mm-hmm.
But
And you can
I
tick
think
boxes like whether you want to show them or not.
yes,
But that's in all of the 3 forms then.
Yep, not independently. And then if you want to do anything more than that, then it's JSON. So you've got that advanced option there. We can go through and create some JSON code.
Yeah, if you click on that, it just gives you a big box.
Yeah, there it is. Go write your JSON. Yeah, but I'd say keep an eye on some of the stuff that the SharePoint PnP guys are doing, and things like that, because they're also creating some great tools that will generate that JSON for you, and you can just drop that into your SharePoint list, and so on. So
yeah, and there are lots of samples like on GitHub and things like that, but still, it is more
code.
Code.
Yeah, absolutely right. So yeah, Lightning Forms is is going to be the product of the month for us through April. Hopefully giving you an idea as to what Lightning Forms is, and you can go and find out more obviously on our website, going to lightningtools.com, and under products you'll see Lightning Forms, and you'll be able to kick the tires on it by downloading a demo, or you can downloading a trial or arrange a demo. And yeah, of course, when you do book a demo with us, one of the things that we ask is, what do you want to do? Because we'll actually build that as part of the demonstration, so you can see exactly how easy it is to do. So if you are interested in Lightning Forms, want to have a look at the capabilities, by all means, arrange a demonstration with us, and tell us what you want to build, and we'll create a little proof of concept through the hour on building that. So
yeah, and we'll be having a webinar then too.
Yes, yeah. So I think I registered that. I did.
Yes, I saw it. Yeah.
Yep. So
on
on
the 22nd, I think.
So on the homepage of our website, you'll be able to register for that, or go onto the webinars page and you'll be able to register from there. Yeah, we'll be doing building a solution of some sort in Lightning Forms, and next week, I guess we'll be talking about some of the new features that we're releasing, because we've not touched on that today. There's some pretty exciting new features that we'll have inside of Lightning Forms, which
lots of fulfilling customer requests.
yes, definitely. Yeah, but great, excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and thanks again, Sandy, for a great Lightning chat.
Good seeing you. All right.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.